Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross from PTCGRadio, and I'm back with another testing deck breakdown. A very special testing deck breakdown, as this is the oft-requested Eeveelutions deck breakdown, which I must have been asked for well over a dozen times in the past few weeks. A lot of people have been asking for this, so I present it to you here and now, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, a quick apology. This is the first time in a good couple of weeks I've posted a non-podcast video on my YouTube channel, and the simple answer is I have had technical problems, which I believe I have sorted out now, but I'm using a slightly different setup. Rather than using two laptops, audio on one, video on another, I have amalgamated it into one laptop due to the other one being broken. So do let me know, ladies and gentlemen, if there's any problems, if it's failing or anything along those lines. It seems to be working alright, and for the time being we can go forward with this, and what it basically means is that we will be able to get some more videos going. So, here is an Eeveelutions deck breakdown. Now, the first thing to note here is that my friend Tommy Roberts made this actual deck, so I can't give you the exact list I've been testing with. The simple reason is it's not my deck to share. I can't give you Tommy's list, that wouldn't be fair to him. What I'm giving you is a similar list which I've been working on independently. This is my own list. What I would tell you, however, is that Tommy's list can be seen in its entirety being played out in the two games from the Nottingham League Challenge. The one where he played me in the final, and the one where he played Ben's Aromatist deck earlier on in the tournament. And although it doesn't include the deck list there, you'll be able to watch that deck, and you'll probably, if you pay close attention, be able to piece together pretty much his exact deck list from there. So I cannot give you his list, but I present a similar deck list here, and I present to you I've given you already on this channel 2 videos which show Tommy's deck being played. Now, there is one slight mistake here, and that is I don't actually have, at the time of writing, 4 of these Eevees. Obviously, the deck is supposed to include none of these Eevees and 4 of these Eevees. And this Eevee is what the entire deck is built around. It's an Eeveelutions deck. It is a deck which is entirely focused on Eevee and Pokemon that evolve from Eevee. And the reason is we've got this ability, Energy Evolution. When you attach a basic energy card from your hand to this Pokemon, you may search your deck for a card that evolves to this Pokemon that is the same type as that energy card and put it onto that Pokemon. This is evolving through an ability, and it can be used on the first turn of the game. So if I'm going first against something like a Landorus, for argument's sake, I don't want to leave an active Eevee at the end of the turn. He's going to be killed very easily by Landorus. To be honest, Landorus with a strong energy or a muscle band would kill Eevee if he wasn't fighting weak. Also, a Seismitoad with a muscle band is going to one-hit Eevee. That 50 HP is small. So what we do is we attach a basic energy card from our hand, and then we get to evolve into a Pokemon of that type. So for instance, I can attach a Fire Energy to evolve into Flareon, a Grass Energy to evolve into Leafeon, a Psychic Energy to evolve into Espeon, and so on. And I get to search the deck and attack and evolve, and this helps me because it means I get to evolve under Trainer Lock, which is good. I don't get to evolve under Ability Lock, but more on that in a minute. And that's the basic theory of the Eevee deck. Now, you'll notice here that all of the Pokemon that evolve from Eevee were using Plasma Pokemon, and that's why we're using Deoxys. He's got the ability Power Connect, which basically says that all of your attacks from Team Plasma Pokemon do 10 more damage, and as we're going to see as we go through here, that is going to be a very, very good thing overall. We can attack with Deoxys. We do play Colress Machine, as we'll get to in a minute. We do play basic Psychic Energy. We'll get to that in a minute. So that means we can use Helix Force, and this is good for killing opposing Mewtwo's, and it's good for killing opposing Deoxys, but we also have Espeon. We don't really want to be attacking with Deoxys. One of the brilliant things about this deck is we are using single prize Pokemon, and we are matching our deck to beat down EX decks, so basically to put the prize trade in our favour. What we don't want to do is be exposing our EXs to fear of being knocked out. Don't get me wrong, my opponent can always use Lysandra or Pokemon Catcher or Red Signal or Bright Look or something along that nature to bring the Deoxys active and kill it, but they're going to an awful lot of effort to do that, and they're not killing my attacker. Whereas if I'm attacking with Deoxys, not only do they have to go to less effort to do so, but they're killing my attacker, they're taking away energy. So we can attack with Deoxys, but we don't want to. Similarly, we can attack with Genesect. We do have 2 basic grass energy in the deck, and this can potentially be good against something like Seismitoad, but we've got Leafeon as a grass attacker. We don't really want to be attacking with Genesect. Genesect is there for his ability Red Signal. You attach a Plasma Energy from your hand, and that allows you to bring a Pokemon from the bench active, and then you can go ahead and kill it. That's what Genesect's in there for. And you'll notice there's no Lysandra in this list. There is no Pokemon Catcher in this list, because Genesect does the work for us. Now, when it comes to attackers, the deck I present you here is a very basic skeleton kind of list. I would expect you to take this, and this really is a deck which you are expected to fit with your metagame. The list I've given you here isn't going to be particularly great against Speed Lugia or Eeveelutions decks. We've only got one Jolteon, but having two Leafeon is going to be very good against Seismitoad decks. So, what do we have? Let's start with Leafeon. Leafeon's got this attack, Energy Crush. Now, we can use Leaf Blade. That is a valid attack. It does 60 damage, or it does 80 on a coin flip. But it takes free energy, and we're not playing double colourless, so we don't really want to be using that. It's in there for Energy Crush. 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. This is very, very good against Seismitoad, because as we go through, what I want you to bear in mind, we have up to 3 Deoxys on the bench adding 10 damage each. We have 2 Muscle Band in this deck, which do an extra 20 damage to any Pokemon, and we have 2 Silver Bangle in this deck that do an extra 30 damage to EX Pokemon. So if I get my Leafeon, let's say I'm going up against a Seismitoad, which has a double colourless energy. We're doing 40 damage, which doubles to 80. That's fine. But let's say my opponent only has a DCE on the bench. On the field, he's got a DCE on Seismitoad, nothing else. I'm doing 40 damage, that's alright. Then let's say I put a Muscle Band onto Leafeon. Well, now all of a sudden I'm doing 70 damage. Then let's say I put 2 Deoxys onto the bench. I am doing 90 damage for 1 colourless energy. It could be a grass, and if I place a grass, I can search for Leafeon and evolve it, but I can similarly just manually evolve and attach any energy to Leafeon. I could even use a Colress machine and not use my energy attachment for the turn. And what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that if I'm playing a Seismitoad deck and they only attach a DCE to their Seismitoad and put no other energy onto the bench, I can still one-hit KO that Seismitoad for 2 prizes for a single energy with a non-EX Pokemon that gives up only 1 prize. That is the heart of this Eeveelutions deck. That's what we're doing. We're not just hitting for weakness on a variety of Pokemon. We're using Muscle Band or Silver Bangle, and we're using Deoxys, with them being Plasma Pokemon, and we're using that to do an inordinate amount of damage for very little energy. Now, Leafeon is very, very good against Seismitoad, but please do not be mistaken into thinking that is the only Pokemon it's good against. Virizion Genesect is a deck that revolves around basically having 2 energy on Virizion, and then using those 2 energy on Virizion to get 3 energy onto a Genesect. There's 5 energy. That is 100 damage. Stick a Muscle Band and a couple of Deoxys there. That's 140 for a single energy. You can start running through these decks quickly. Aromatisse decks are other decks which revolve around putting a lot of energy on the field. Eeveelutions decks like to conserve energy on the field. They like to use Y-Cyclone, putting that DCE onto a benched Pokemon, and then adding another DCE to the active Eeveelutions, putting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 energy on the field at once. And that means Leafeon's going to do a lot of damage. And he is the Pokemon we're going to attack with most. That's why there's 2 of him. The other Pokemon we're playing 2 of is Espeon, and that is because an awful lot of decks nowadays are playing Mewtwo, or Garbodor, or Deoxys, and this is very good against all of them. Now, one good attack it has is Psylocke, and both the attacks here are in play, unlike Leafeon, where we only really want the first attack. Psylocke does 20 damage and allows you to draw until you've got 6 in your hand, but at the end of the day, let's not forget, you put a Muscle Band and 2 Deoxys, that's 60 damage for a single energy, and you're drawing till you've got 6 in your hand. If you're drawing dead mid-game, Espeon is a good consistency Pokemon. Now, this maxes out against an EX Pokemon, 3 Deoxys, and a Silver Bangle. You're doing 80 damage for 1 energy and refilling your hand. That, ladies and gentlemen, is quite crazy. But we've also got Shadow Ball. 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if they put a Mewtwo active, Silver Bangle 2 Deoxys, or Muscle Band 3 Deoxys, you're doing 180 damage to a Mewtwo or to a Deoxys, or indeed any Psychic Weak EX. Or even Psychic Weak Pokemon, although you don't need to do 180 to them, and then you're getting KOs nice and quickly. You are going to win almost any Mewtwo or Deoxys war with this deck because of that Espeon. And when I found out I was playing Tommy, I joked, ha ha ha, I'm just going to Mewtwo war all of your small low HP Pokemon. Because if you go back to the game I played against Tommy at the Nottingham League Challenge, which is on my YouTube channel, you'll see I'm playing Seismitoad, Mewtwo, Garbodor. Well, it didn't work. Because how am I going to win a Mewtwo war when he's got the one prize Espeon, which is just as good as, if not better than, Deoxys and Mewtwo? The other thing is, Shadow Ball is very rare in that you apply weakness and resistance to benched Pokemon. And that is the reason, you may have noticed if you look at this list, there are 0 Startling Megaphone in this deck. And if my opponent gets a Garbodor out, I cannot use Red Signal to draw that Garbodor active, because Garbodor shuts off Red Signal, the ability. So essentially, if my opponent gets a Garbodor out with a tool, it's staying there all game. Not so with Espeon. Trubbish has 70 HP and a weakness to Psychic. If my opponent puts down a Trubbish, I'm going to use Shadow Ball to knock out that Trubbish on the bench before he ever gets active. I say active, I mean working. Before he gets a Garbodor and a tool, I'm going to just KO that Trubbish on the bench. Now, it is going to take 2 hits to KO a Garbodor on the bench when it gets out, because Garbodor does 100 HP and has 100 HP, and Espeon cannot add damage with Muscle Band or Deoxys when it's hitting the bench. That's how we take care of Garbodor, and that's why Espeon's good. The other Pokemon in this particular list, I've just put one of each, and the reason is I'm basically leaving it up to you to decide which you want. You can play around with this list however you like to increase the options. I'm just giving you the major options. There are, of course, other cards you can put in here, but I don't consider any of them to be good enough to warrant putting in. Vaporeon can use Refreshing Rain, but it's not very good. You're there for Gold Breaker. Now, this takes 2 energy, so you want to try and use Colress Machine or plan ahead for this one, because quite frankly, you're not going to get this going in one turn like you are for Leafeon or Espeon. But it does 30 damage or 80 to an EX Pokemon. If you're playing against something like Donphan that's Water Weak, you can be using Genesect's Red Signal ability to bring a Donphan active, although of course the new Wobbuffet coming out would stop you doing that, because Wobbuffet would turn off Genesect's ability. Although I don't think it would turn off Deoxys' ability, because if I remember correctly, Wobbuffet doesn't turn off the abilities of Psychic Pokemon, so Deoxys actually would keep his Power Connect ability. It would only be Genesect and Eevee that lose out. So you could bring it up and then you kill it with Vaporeon. Now you need to do 70 to one-hit KO a fresh Donphan with weakness, but again 30 easily goes up to 70 with Muscle Band and Deoxys. Against an EX that's Water Weak, something like Landorus for instance, all you need is just a Muscle Band or a Silver Bangle or a single Deoxys, and you're going to get over the 90 threshold. Vaporeon will KO those Pokemon very, very quickly. And that's what gives you such a good matchup against fighting decks. Espeon makes short work of Lucario, Vaporeon makes very short work of Landorus. We've also got a Jolteon in here. Jolteon, you can use the first attack, but it's a flippy attack. 1 colourless energy, flip 4 coins, 20 times the number of heads. If you hit 4 heads, you just need a Deoxys or a Muscle Band or a Silver Bangle to one-hit KO an Eeveelutions or a Lugia. But if your opponent is lucky you only hit 1 head, it's going to take a lot to do all that damage. What you really want to be using is a second attack, Electro Diffuse. That's a base of 40 damage, which is the same base as Shadow Ball, and you saw how that added up nice and quickly. 2 Deoxys, Silver Bangle, or 3 Deoxys Muscle Band, you get up to the magic 90 and you're one-hit KOing a Lugia or an Eeveelutions. If you can't one-hit KO, it has got a nice little secondary effect there. If it's a Pokemon EX, that Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. And they can switch out or retreat to something else that can attack, but it's still a useful little attack. And they are our Pokemon. That's basically what we're doing here. There's also a Mr. Mime, very simply because, who also wouldn't lose his ability for Wobbuffet, because he's a psychic Pokemon. Mr. Mime can attack with Psybolt, but again, with a base of 20 damage, you really don't want to be doing so. What you really want to be doing is, just leaving him on the bench to use Bench Barrier, and then you've got Espeon rolling to actually do your attacking as a psychic type Pokemon. But it's an option, ladies and gentlemen. It is an option, so, it's there. But you really want him for his ability. And that's it. That's the Pokemon. The entire point of this deck is quite simply, you want to be going as quickly as you possibly can, running through all of your opponent's EX Pokemon, or even non-EX Pokemon. But the theory is, you're attacking with your Eeveelutions for 1 or maybe 2 energy, and you're not doing much damage necessarily, but you're adding to it with Deoxys, Muscle Band, and Silver Bangle, and that's how you're going to get up to speed nice and quickly. Now, I did actually tell you I'd gone through all the Pokemon. That is, of course, an abject lie. I haven't talked about Flareon. Flareon is your Virizion Genesect counter. He is a Fire-type Pokemon. Now, he can also do a lot of damage late game. I have talked ad nauseum about Flareon on my podcast. I might even have mentioned once or twice how I made the top 8 of the ECC this past year with a Flareon deck. That might have been mentioned once or twice on my podcast. You can not use Heat Tackle. I don't think I've put any Fire energy in this deck, so ha. But you use Vengeance. 20 damage plus 10 more for each Pokemon in your discard pile. Now, having played a number of games with this particular deck, you're not going to fill your discard pile. You don't have to. I've shown you with Jolteon and Espeon how much damage you can do with 40 base damage. So you get 2 Pokemon in your discard pile, you're at 40, and then you're rolling. Silver Bangle, 2 Deoxys, 40 base damage, you're up to 90. So if I'm playing against a Virizion Genesect deck, I want 2 Pokemon in the discard, I want a Silver Bangle on Flareon, 2 Deoxys on the bench, and all of a sudden I'm hitting that magic 90, I'm one-hitting Virizion and Genesect. By the way, I have just checked with Wobbuffet, and Psychic Pokemon do keep their abilities, so actually in this particular deck, Deoxys and Mr. Mime wouldn't be blocked by Wobbuffet. Just in case you're worried about coming up against it. And now that's the Pokemon. You will want to vary this to your particular metagame. I've given you a deck which can go with everything, but it's not going to be great against Virizion Genesect. Leafeon will do some work, but you'll want a second Flareon. If you're going to be facing lots of Lugia or Yveltal decks, you're going to want a second Jolteon. If fighting Donphan, etc. is big in your metagame, you're going to want a second Vaporeon. I've given you the list which I've had the most success with here, but I encourage you to play around with it. Now, and on this laptop, look, I can see the whole list, whereas before I could never see the numbers down here. This has got a lovely little touchpad I can scroll down. That's progress, ladies and gentlemen. And I've given you a very vanilla energy line. You'll probably want to play around with this. I'm not saying this is perfect, but I don't know which Pokemon I'm going to be using, so I've gone for 2 of each energy. Now, I've generally found here I can only afford 11 spots for energy, so I have regrettably gone down to 3 Plasma Energy. Now, you really need Plasma Energy for Colress Machine, for Genesect, and for Deoxys. You don't need it for any of the other Pokemon, although obviously Colress Machine helps in terms of attaching it to those Pokemon. So what we basically have here is a nice vanilla list, but you're going to want to play around with it. If I'm say I cut Vaporeon, but I go up to 3 Jolteon, then I'm probably going to want, maybe 3 Electric, 3 Grass, 2 Lightning. 2 Psychic. But you can play around with this as you like. Now, when it comes to supporters, there is one supporter we see here which is a little bit odd, and that's Pokemon Fan Club. Now, when constructing this deck, I actually found myself without a 4th Pokemon Fan Club, and I've played a lot of games without a 4th Pokemon Fan Club, and I am undecided. It's going to clutter your game, and it's going to clutter your deck unless you grab it in the first few turns. So it's really whether you're desperate for that early game consistency, in which case you want to up it to 4, or whether, like me, you want the kind of more overall option-y supporter line, but with a slightly lower chance of drawing it early game. I leave it up to you. I'm not playing 4 because I don't have 4, but after playing with only 3, I'm not sure I'd want to put up to 4. I leave it in your hands. But it allows you to get 2 basic Pokemon. Ideally, you start with an Eevee, you grab one of these and search for a second Eevee and a Deoxys, or maybe even a second and third Eevee, and then you're rolling. You want to basically be getting, on an average game, probably 3 Eevee, 2 Deoxys, and your Genesect down, unless your opponent hits the bench. By the way, Mr. Mime is also there because our Pokemon have low HP, especially Eevee, and something that hits the bench like a Landorus or Kyurem, the Plasma Kyurem, they are going to cause us problems quickly. So you might want to put a Mime down there and then you'll have to adjust your bench accordingly. But you're going to want a full bench, you're going to want your basics out, you need Pokemon Fan Club. Now, we're playing one Team Plasma Ball, which allows us to search for the Genesect, the Deoxys, or any of the Eeveelutions, but not Eevee or Mr. Mime, and we're playing 2 Ultra Ball. Now, this isn't a Flareon deck. We don't need the discard like we would in a Flareon deck, hence why we're only playing 2 Ultra Ball. We love Team Plasma Ball in this deck, but we need the Eevee, so we can't afford to play more than one. I would like more balls in this deck, I would like more of both of them. I have compromised here, and there's a lot of compromise going on in this deck. It's a deck that's trying to do a lot of stuff. But, you know, it's there. It is what it is. Now, in terms of other supporters, we've got 4N and 4 Juniper. These are the best supporters in the game. You basically always want 4 of them. Juniper is very aggressive and helps you get set up. N helps in the early game and screws over your opponent if you fall behind. In the vast majority of decks, you want 4 of each. I found myself with 4 supporter slots. Anyone who listens to this podcast or watches these videos regularly, I'm aware this isn't a podcast, but it's affiliated therewith, so I stand by my comment, is going to know that I love supporters. And my general rule is I want 15 supporters. In most decks, I don't really fall below 14. I usually want 15. So, I've got 4N and 4 Juniper. I'm rolling with 3 Pokemon Fan Club. That gives me 4 supporter spaces. I've gone for 2 Skylar due to the large amount of item cards in this deck. And I've gone for 2 Colress due to the fact that my bench is usually going to be full. I don't want more than 2 Colress because it's not very good early game. I don't want more than 2 Skylar because most of the time I'm going to want more than just 1 trainer card. But I have 2 of each of them because they both come in handy sometimes, but their use is limited. The reason I've got 2 Muscle Band, 2 Silver Bangle is because I want 4 cards that add damage, as I've been talking about again and again through this video. The reason 2 of each, it's a compromise. If the format shifts so pretty much everyone's just playing EX decks, I'm going to go for 4 Silver Bangle. If the format shifts away from EXs towards non-EXs, maybe I'll go 3 Ultra Ball, 1 Silver Bangle. It comes down to choice. From what I've been playing lately, there's a good mix of EX and non-EX decks and Pokemon, which is why I've gone for the 2-2 split. The reason we go for computer search here is this is an options deck, by which I mean there isn't a set strategy. When I'm playing my Seismitoad Mewtwo Garbodor deck, it's very simple. I want Seismitoad active using Quaking Punch, I want Garbodor with a tool on the bench, and I want to be building up either a Seismitoad or a Mewtwo to do big attacks later on. And that is basically the way I play every single game. It's also why it's such an easily countered deck. That is not the way I go. This is also what I'd call a reactive deck, which is decks that I've favoured in the past. My Flareon deck was very much like this. I was playing Zoroark to copy attacks, I was playing Flareon, I was playing this Leafeon as well, I was playing Stunfisk. I basically played a huge amount of Pokemon that relied on what my opponent was doing. And that's like this deck. I don't know what I'm using. So as much as I would love Dowsing Machine to get more of these item cards back, more of these supporters back, I honestly can't afford to play Dowsing Machine. I need a fast setup. Some games I'm going to want my Genesect down very quickly. Other games I'm going to need Mr. Mime. Other games I'm going to need to ensure I get my Flareon, and there's no fire energy to allow me to search for it. Or I might need the extra energy because I'm rolling with Flareon or Vaporeon, so I need those Colress machines as soon as I can possibly get them, so I'm going to need computer search, etc, etc. In terms of Colress Machine, it's the only energy acceleration we have here. It allows you to attach a plasma energy from your deck. We need this for a number of reasons, but mostly it's there for things like Deoxys or Flareon or Vaporeon that need that second energy attachment. This deck, it kind of plays like you need a new attacker every turn. Now, you might not have your Pokemon KO'd. You might be able to attack with Leafeon turn after turn, but you might need to change attacker every turn. So therefore, we need Chorus Machine to get up to speed. There's also going to be some turns where you're not going to draw into one of your basic energy, so it helps there. Of course, and this is a controversial part of my list, and I absolutely encourage you to disagree with this, I've and ahed about it myself, I'm playing Free Professor's Letter. And quite simply, it's because I'm playing 4 different types of basic energy. Now, I am also playing 2 Skylar, but which I can use to search for this, and a computer search, but I want my computer search for other stuff. I don't want to be using my computer search for a basic energy, and although Skylaring for Professor's Letter can be good, you know, if I've got 2 Pokemon on the bench, I'm going to want Pokemon Fan Club. I'm not going to want Skylar for a Professor's Letter. Because basic energy in this deck doesn't just attack. Basic energy in this deck evolves. And that's the key here. If I'm getting a grass energy, it's not just powering up my Leafeon, it's getting my Leafeon. And that's absolutely crucial. And that's the other reason we can afford to just use 2 Ultra Ball, 1 Plasma Ball, because as long as I've got an Eevee down, I've got Pokemon Fan Club to get the Eevees, and I've got Basic Energy to get the Eeveelutions. So although I want more balls to search for Pokemon, bear in mind I have got my Pokemon Fan Club, and I've got my Computer Search, and I've got Eevee's ability as well. So that's how we get away with so few balls, and it's why we need Free Professor's Letter. I have and ahed about it, but honestly I'll keep it there. Switch, we're playing 3 of them, because like I've said before, it's an option deck. I'm going to need to switch attacker around quite a lot. If I'm using Leafeon to beat down Seismitoad and my opponent brings out a Mewtwo to kill the Leafeon, I am going to want to put up Espeon instead, and Leafeon, we'll see, has a retreat cost of 2. I can use 2 energy to manually retreat it, but I ain't playing that much energy. The last 2 cards, I think these are the last 2 cards that I need to talk about, are recovery cards. I have 1 Sacred Ash, which allows me to put 5 Pokemon from my discard pile into my deck, and I've got 1 Energy Retrieval, which allows me to put 2 basic energy cards into my hand. What I really want in this deck is 2 Super Rod. And in previous formats, I would be playing 2 Super Rod, which would give me each would give me 3 in any combination of basic energy and Pokemon, but I don't have Super Rod, so I'm making the best of what I can. If I'm playing a heavy Seismitoad deck, 2 Leafeon might not be enough. Sacred Ash gets them back. 2 Psychic Energy might not be enough if I'm going heavy Espeon. Energy Retrieval gets it back. The other thing here is, I've only got 4 Eevees. And I'm probably going to want to be using 6 Eeveelutions in most games, so a lot of the time Sacred Ash is going to get 2 of those Eevees back. And you'll see that although I did go 2-1 in my 2-1 down, I lost, in my best of 3 series against Tommy's Eeveelutions deck with my Seismitoad Garbodor, it is important to note that that's kind of a misnomer, because the one game I won, Tommy did have 2 Eevees and his Sacred Ash prize. I still had a decent start and, you know, beat him down to the point where he needed his 3rd Eevee, but shall we say there was a bit of luck on my part. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Eeveelutions deck you've all been asking for. This is not a perfect list. This is, well, it's called a testing deck breakdown. And in testing deck breakdowns, you should know by now, I give you a list that you can take away, have a play with, but I'm expecting you to alter it. I'm not giving you perfect lists. They are lists that you can use to test with. But the really important thing to note about this deck, it's going to evolve around your metagame. There are certain decks, things like Aromatisse, that this is not good against, and you should not play it. It's really good against Seismitoad, it's really good against Fighting, it's really good against Pyroar. Vaporeon comes in very handy against Pyroar. Although all of your Eeveelutions can hit it, to be honest, so you'll end up taking them down pretty quickly. Espeon takes down, Leafeon takes down Pyroar pretty quickly, and he's a grass type that's weak to fire. But there are other decks it's really not good against. Things like Aromatisse. Jolteon isn't amazing, so it's not great against Yveltal. It's not particularly good against Plasma, although you can keep using red signal to kill things like Deoxys on the bench. So I encourage you to test this deck, see its good matchups, see its bad matchups, and work from there. But you are probably going to have to alter it to your metagame. Whether you can afford to run all 5 of these Eeveelutions in one build of this deck, I don't know. But this is your starting point, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you've got any questions, stick them in the comment below, and feel free to tweet me at the Wassy or email me at ptcgradio@co.uk if you've got more in-depth questions you'd like a slightly longer answer to. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video, please. That's always appreciated. And if you have subscribed, find one of your friends. Find them to subscribe. As always, thank you very much for watching. Look after yourself, and I'll see you again very soon. You've been watching PTCG Radio.